Join our community by subscribing. Every click helps us share more stories like this one. The introduction. In a small, unassuming town that seemed to have slipped between the pages of a storybook, life flowed steadily, marked by the gentle rhythm of seasons. Maplewood was characterized by its tree-lined streets and modest homes, where the laughter of children filled the air and the sun-painted hills served as a backdrop to countless family barbecues. It was the kind of place where neighbors still exchanged homemade cookies and greeted each other with a nod. But like most placid communities, beneath the surface lay secrets waiting to be uncovered. On the morning of September 14th, 2022, a peculiar stillness enveloped Maplewood. The dense fog that had settled near dawn wrapped the town in a white shroud. As it lifted, revealing the cobblestone streets and remnants of summer blooms, a discovery would alter the town's innocence forever. At the edge of Maplewood Park, where children typically played and families enjoyed picnics, a jogger, lost in the rhythm of her exercise, stumbled upon something amiss. Framed by clusters of wildflowers, a backpack lay discarded, the zipper slightly open as if hastily abandoned. Alarmed, she approached and knelt down, her heart fluttering with trepidation. Inside, she found not just the items of a mundane life, a water bottle, a few school books, and a brightly colored pencil case, but something that cast a shadow over their jovial existence. A bloodied shirt, sinister and startling, leaving a chilling question echoing through the quiet morning air. Within hours, the Maplewood Police Department would be summoned, drawing closer to an unraveling mystery that would expose the town's darkest fears and reshape its identity forever. The echoes of laughter would soon be drowned out by the urgent whispers of concern and the heavy footsteps of an investigation. The clock was ticking, and a race against time to uncover the truth was about to begin. The victim. As the morning sun broke through the remnants of fog, illuminating the scene at Maplewood Park, the jogger looked on in horror. Within minutes, police cars arrived, their red and blue lights cutting sharply through the calm air. Officers cordoned off the area, creating a buffer between the growing crowd of onlookers and the grim reality of the investigation unfolding. The victim was a 15-year-old girl named Emily Carter, a name that resonated through the town like a familiar tune. She was known for her bright smile and boundless energy, a fresh face in the local high school's theater productions, and a star runner on the track team. Her absence was sorely felt just days after she failed to return from an after-school practice. Friends were already beginning to panic, and now, standing by the park's hedges, they would learn the chilling details that would forever alter their lives. Detective Laura Bennett, a seasoned investigator with years of experience navigating complex cases, stepped into the scene. She could feel the palpable tension in the air, thrumming with anxiety and disbelief. Turning her attention to the backpack, she noted the bloodied shirt, its fabric twisted and torn in a way that hinted at a violent altercation. After securing evidence and confirming Emily's identity, she instructed officers to canvass the area, hoping to find witnesses who might illuminate the dark hours leading up to the girl's disappearance. An unsettling mixture of sorrow and urgency gripped the detective as she began piecing together Emily's last known movements. Friends reported leaving the school together, but having gone their separate ways after practice. The mud chatter of school life contrasted sharply with the dark cloud looming over her investigation. Who would want to harm such a vibrant girl? And why? As the sun climbed higher in the sky, casting long shadows through the trees, Detective Bennett's mind raced with possibilities. Each victim leaves behind unanswered questions. And Emily's case was no different. The need to discover the truth became a lifeline as she prepared for the long, arduous journey ahead, a journey that would test not only her skills as an investigator, but also the very naivety of the community she swore to protect. The crime scene. The police cordon tightened around the crime scene as officers prepared to conduct a thorough examination of the area where Emily's backpack had been discovered. Detective Bennett directed the forensics team, their movements deliberate and methodical, a stark contrast to the chaos that erupted in the town as news spread. Piecing together the details of the scene felt akin to assembling a jigsaw puzzle with pieces that seemed to constantly shift. Plastic evidence markers dotted the grass, signaling each critical element. A torn piece of Emily's shirt, a scuff mark on the ground, a discarded hairpin glimmering weakly in the sunlight. Each item was meticulously documented, cataloged for evidence, a ritual that spoke to the gravity of the situation. But the emptiness of the park echoed a profound loss, and the shadows cast by the trees seemed heavier with the weight of uncertainty. As the forensic analysts collected samples, a growing crowd of anxious neighbors and worried friends gathered just outside the tape, their murmurs rising and crashing like waves on the shore. Emily had been one of them, her laughter mingling with theirs, her hopes and dreams intertwined in the fabric of their community. It felt surreal to think that the vibrant girl they knew could be the same girl whose blood now stained this very spot. Detective Bennett took a moment to observe her surroundings, feeling the unsettling tension seep into her bones. The crime scene extended beyond the visible. She imagined the minutes that passed before Emily had disappeared, the thoughts swirling in her mind, the interactions she might have had, and perhaps a fleeting glimpse of danger hidden in plain sight. Had she run into someone she knew or a stranger who had invaded her sanctuary? Suddenly, a call came through her radio, cutting through her contemplation. The patrol unit assigned to canvass the area had apprehended a nearby resident who claimed to have seen something unusual that evening. A flicker of hope ignited within Detective Bennett. The answers may still lie just around the corner. She steeled herself for the unfolding investigation, knowing one thing for certain. The truth would emerge, dragging with it the remnants of a town once cloaked in safety, leaving raw scars that would take far longer to heal. The early investigation. The sun dipped low in the sky as Detective Bennett convened with her team at the Maplewood police station, the warm glow casting an eerie light on the pressing tasks ahead. Hours had passed since the discovery of Emily's belongings, but the anxiety within the station only seemed to intensify. Maps of the area were pinned across the walls, timelines created, and a stack of witness statements were piling high. Each detail became a thread they hoped to weave into clarity. Her investigative team gathered around a central table. "We need to talk to everyone who last saw Emily," Bennett urged, her voice steady yet urgent. "Witnesses may have seen something crucial that will help us piece together the timeline." The officers nodded, their pens poised, ready to capture any sliver of information that might break the case wide open. Rumors began swirling amongst concerned citizens, small-town speculation, the kind that spreads like wildfire. Whispers of possible suspects emerged, fueled by unverified stories. A teenage boy who lived nearby had caught attention for his odd behavior in the days leading up to Emily's disappearance. Parents worried, fearing that the innocent facade of their town was unraveled. Detective Bennett knew that in times of tragedy, rationality often succumbed to paranoia. Still, they had to pursue every lead with caution. The first interviews began with Emily's friends, who recalled her vibrant energy and shared laughter in every nook of Maplewood. Those moments felt precious, painful in their loss. Zara, one of Emily's closest friends, struggled to hold back tears, describing their final conversation. "We talked about track practice and our plans for the school dance." She seemed so excited. As Sarah spoke, Bennett noted the tremor in her voice, a blend of sorrow and guilt, as if she felt responsible for not being there. With every conversation, the picture grew more complex. A neighbor claimed to have seen a dark sedan parked outside the park around the time Emily vanished. Another mentioned distant shouting that brought on an uneasy sensation. These snippets hinted at something far more sinister than an innocent disappearance. Nights were often calm in Maplewood, but now the air felt charged with uncertainty. Detective Bennett stood at the window, watching as darkness cloaked the town. She knew every moment mattered, every lead counted. With Emily's fate hanging in limbo, the stakes could not be higher. The depth of her purpose drove her determination. She would not rest until she unearthed the truth that lay buried within both the town and the case. The dead ends. Days turned into a week, yet Emily remained missing. As the investigation dragged on, the whispers in Maplewood grew louder. Every corner of the town felt charged with an overwhelming sense of fear and uncertainty. Detective Bennett found herself staring at the corkboard in her office. Threads of string crisscrossing between photos, timelines, and witness statements. Somehow it all felt both connected and impossibly out of reach. The initial leads, once brimming with promise, began to dissipate. The dark sedan reported by the neighbor had been traced to a local family, wholly innocent and blindsided by the sudden scrutiny. Every potential suspect was either accounted for or had a solid alibi. And Bennett could feel her frustration mounting. A sense of urgency pulsed through her veins. Every moment felt like it could mean another opportunity lost. As the days wore on, investigators conducted relentless interviews, piecing together a mosaic of Emily's daily life. They traced her social media, combed through phone records, even reached out to potential school rivals. But each line of inquiry led to dead ends. Friends revealed little more than the desire to find Emily and the shared burden of grief. Bennett watched as their faces reflected heartbreak, each interview peeling back layers of their sorrow. Then came a breakthrough that felt more elusive than promising. A forensics report finally came in on the bloodied shirt recovered from Emily's backpack. But instead of clarity, it brought more questions. The DNA matched Emily's, affirming the gruesome reality that she had been harmed. There were no traces of any other contributors, no fibers that could lead down a new path. Just her blood, a haunting reminder of the violence that had invaded their peaceful town. Frustration boiled beneath the surface, leading Bennett to contemplate the nature of her work. She understood the stakes and the importance of bringing closure to Emily's family, yet every corner turned seemed only to spiral further into despair. With each interview and every piece of evidence, she felt the walls tighten around her, a weight of expectation resting on her shoulders. One night, Bennett stayed late in the office, the flickering light filtering through the darkness of the town outside. Surrounded by unanswered questions, she faced the stark reality of their situation. If they did not find Emily soon, the case could grow cold, swallowed by time. She couldn't allow this to happen. The urgency to unmask the truths that lay buried only intensified, propelling her deeper into the shadows of Maplewood's tragedy. A break in the case. The days continued to blur together, heavy with a pall of anguish crippling the town of Maplewood. But just as hope began to dim, a stroke of luck arrived on a Wednesday afternoon. The local high school principal, Mr. Austin, called in a favor, enabling a compact gathering of students to discuss Emily and the ongoing investigation. In a small meeting room filled with bright posters and awkward youthful laughter, the mood was markedly somber. As Bennett sat with a small group of Emily's friends, they recounted treasured memories and shared heartache. Laughter turned quickly to tears. Then, in the midst of conversation, a voice piped up. It was Max, an unassuming band member who had often been overlooked in their close-knit circle. I think I saw something weird, he stammered, retreating into the warmth of silence that filled the room. Bennett leaned forward, encouraging him gently. What do you mean? Please, tell me everything you remember. Max swallowed hard, eyes darting around the table. It was the day she went missing. I left school late and I saw her near the bus stop. She was talking to someone in a blue hoodie. I didn't think much of it then, but something felt off. The person looked sketchy. Bennett's pulse quickened. Did you see their face? No, just the hoodie, Max replied, his hands trembling in his lap as if he were grappling with the weight of his memory. I thought they were just friends, but now the realization of a possible lead, no matter how faint, fueled a deep sense of urgency in Bennett. The gathering of mixed emotions hummed in the air, a combination of relief and dread. Max, can you remember any details about that person? What else was happening around you? As he spoke, Bennett scribbled notes with a newfound fervor, capturing every detail. Suddenly, this piece fit into the puzzle, igniting a flicker of hope. With Max's account, they could establish an updated timeline, potentially expanding their search for the mystery individual in the blue hoodie. Each detail looming, questions finally forging a path. Ford tapped into the collective longing for answers. Once the meeting concluded, Bennett rushed back to the station. As her team regrouped, she shared Max's description, and they combed through video footage from the school's cameras, which could illuminate this encounter. Hours turned into minutes as they scrutinized pixelated frames, wondering if at last they would glimpse the identity of the figure who had been lurking just beyond the periphery of their investigation. Among the rapidly spinning wheels of her thoughts, one resolute idea blossomed. They were not defeated yet. Justice wasn't confined to the darkest corners. Somewhere in Maplewood, a person held the answers, and they were closing in. This break in the case was not just a chance. It was a second wind, and Bennett was determined to leverage it to restore hope to a town aching for closure. The suspect. As the sun dipped behind the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Detective Bennett and her team gathered in the small conference room at the Maplewood police station. An air of anticipation filled the space, underscored by the sense that they were finally on the right track. Max's sighting of the individual in the blue hoodie had added a crucial layer to their investigation. The surveillance footage from the high school had been meticulously reviewed, revealing a figure that matched Max's description. An unknown student looking uncomfortably out of place lingered near Emily during the critical moments before her disappearance. This individual appeared on the footage, arms crossed, mouth moving as if speaking, a cast of uncertainty shadowing his features. While the images were grainy, Bennett felt a rush of adrenaline. It was the closest connection they had unearthed so far. We need to identify this guy, Bennett said, her voice steady yet insistent as she pointed to a still frame, showcasing the individual in the blue hoodie. "Let's canvass the school. Someone must recognize him." Within an hour, officers reached out to students and staff, pouncing on the urgency of the moment. Old friends, acquaintances, and faculty members swarmed with theories and recollections. When they finally identified the suspect, a nervous sophomore named Jared Mills, it was a call that set everyone on edge. Jared was known for his erratic behavior, a loner, a boy frequently picked on at school. With a name now attached to the figure in the hoodie, it became imperative to bring Jared in for questioning. His penchant for remaining isolated had drawn whispers of speculation and suspicion from peers, but it left the detective pondering how deeply loneliness could mask darker impulses. Later that evening, Bennett and 2 officers arrived at Jared's home. The neighborhood felt heavier under the weight of impending confrontation, a prelude to something that might turn the town's unease into terrifying clarity. As they knocked on the door, a sinking feeling settled in Bennett's chest. Would he yield the truth, or would they be facing a labyrinth of denial? Jared's mother, flustered and anxious, opened the door. With a hesitant nod, she led them to the living room where Jared sat, his eyes wide and searching, experiencing the kind of fear that a trapped animal might feel, instinctively knowing that it could either defend itself or succumb. Once inside, Bennett observed him closely, noting fidgeting hands and the way his gaze flitted toward the floor. "Jared, we just want to ask you a few questions about Emily Carter," she began, tapping into a calm but authoritative tone. As she spoke, an unsettling silence gripped the room, echoing the safety of secrets long kept. The tension was palpable. A single exposure could roll the unraveling tide toward truth, or further entrench the shadows. Bennett took a breath, ready to diagnose the layers of the young boy's latent fear. An opportunity for justice loomed, and she was determined to seize it. The trial. The empty courtroom felt suffocating in its stillness as the community of Maplewood slowly filled the rows. An array of anxious faces waiting for answers. Banners and signs of support for Emily had adorned the town square since the day she went missing, and now they gathered, bearing witness to the next chapter of their collective nightmare. After months of relentless investigation, the trial of Jared Mills was finally underway. As Detective Bennett sat in the back, her heart raced. She had poured her soul into this case, each moment of questioning and probing intertwined with her very identity as a protector of the community. The weight of public scrutiny pressed against her like a heavy shroud. The stakes had never felt higher. The prosecution laid out the case methodically, each argument punctuating the mounting evidence against Jared. Witnesses recounted the day of Emily's disappearance, the blue hoodie, the awkward demeanor, the anxious fidgeting. Students described the undercurrents of tension surrounding Jared, their recollections steeped in fear and confusion. The faint smudge of Jared's fingerprints on the bloodied shirt found in Emily's backpack became a pivotal point, twisting the trajectory of his fate. In stark contrast, the defense fought back fiercely. They painted a picture of Jared as a troubled teen, an easy target for scapegoat. They called into question the reliability of the witnesses, suggesting that adolescent gossip infected their accounts. A few students took the stand and retracted their previous statements, swayed by fear of the backlash they might face. Bennett watched, helpless, as the tide shifted momentarily, a haunting reminder of how thin the line often was between truth and perception. As the days progressed, the townspeople who had once united against a hidden demon began to fracture under uncertainty and doubt. Every lunch shared in the local diner turned into whispered arguments about guilt and innocence, principles twisted by empathy and fear. When the time for the verdict finally arrived, the courtroom buzzed with tension. Bennett sat at the front, observing the jury as they filed back in. The breath of the entire town seemed to still, each person holding on to hope or fear as the foreman stood to read their decision. Not guilty. The words reverberated through the room like a thunderclap, unleashing a wave of disbelief and despair that spread through the crowd. Gasps echoed in every corner, punctuated by a mix of anger, sorrow, and the sadness of unresolved justice. Bennett felt the ground beneath her falter. The reality of failure weighed heavy on her heart. Despite her relentless pursuit, the community was left hanging. As people began to exit, voices grew louder, and its resolve hardened. She refused to accept that the darkness would win, no matter how deeply disappointment clawed at her spirit. She understood one unwavering truth. The quest for justice was never truly over. Maplewood's wounds would linger, burdening their collective memory, but she knew that the fight would continue. Justice would one day cast its glow on the darkness that had overshadowed this town, and it was an ending she would not shy away from pursuing. The aftermath. As the gavel fell, sealing Jared Mills' acquittal, a profound silence swept through the courtroom, thick with the weight of unresolved grief. Outside, Maplewood bristled with chaos, a town grappling with an identity forever altered. The once familiar streets now trembled under the strain of fear and mistrust. The community fissured by division, a fracture that would take time and likely a great deal of work to mend. In the days that followed, an uneasy stillness settled over the town. Flags hung low, casting shadows on the businesses that had thrived in the warmth of camaraderie. Bennett walked the streets, her mind replaying the trial like a broken record. Conversations flitted about her, snippets of anger and whispered questions. How could this happen? Where is Emily? Echoed through the shops, intermingling with feelings of betrayal and helplessness. While many sought solace in one another, others turned inward, isolating themselves amid mounting tensions. The town hall became a battleground for heated discussions, where parents feared for their children's safety and neighbors whispered suspicions about each other. The laughter of children playing in the park became a distant memory, replaced by anxious glances and hushed tone. But amidst the turmoil, Detective Bennett found herself focused on Emily's family, who were navigating the depths of their loss and heartache. Emily's mother, Sarah Carter, had become a pillar of strength, unwavering in her quest for truth, despite the court's decision. In heartfelt discussions, she confessed her desire to keep her daughter's memory alive, striving for justice for other families who might find themselves in similar nightmares. Detective, we cannot let this fade, Sarah had said, her voice trembling but resolute. We need to hold the community together. We must raise awareness about the dangers our children face. Inspired by Sarah's resilience, Bennett led the charge in organizing community meetings. They transformed from places of fear into platforms for discussion, encouraging transparency and collaboration. Local agencies provided resources on mental health and safety, advocating for open lines of communication between students and adults. Each meeting felt like a healing step, a chance for the community to reclaim its strength. As weeks turned into months, the struggle for healing continued, but a gradual shift began to take hold. Police patrols increased, focused on creating a safer haven for families, while supportive initiatives rallied citizens around. Together, they channeled their pain into action, determined to prevent future tragedy. Despite the lingering shadows of what was lost, Bennett found solace in the friendships blossoming across the town. The road to healing would be long and difficult, yet she understood that resilience lay in unity. Although Emily's fate remained a painful reminder, her memory sparked a movement tone that may yet ignite true change. As Bennett stared at the coming dawn from her office window one crisp morning, warmth kissed her skin, hinting at the promise of a new day. Emily may have vanished, but in her absence, she was leaving behind a legacy call for vigilance, awareness, and compassion that would ripple through Maplewood long after the shadows had faded. The struggle for justice may have seemed unfinished, but in that struggle, a glimmer of hope dared to spring forth from the ashes. Reflection. In the months that followed the trial, Detective Laura Bennett often found herself perched on the edge of introspection. The weight of Emily Carter's case lingered like a specter, a haunting reminder that some doors remain locked, even after the truth has been unearthed. Maplewood had become a backdrop for unforeseen awakenings and buried regrets, and reflection was an unwelcome but necessary companion. Bennett would sit in her office, staring at Emily's photo pinned to the corkboard, a smile frozen in time, mingling with the memories of laughter she had shared with the community. But alongside those memories lay an insistent question. Had she done enough? What more could she have pursued to bring justice to Emily and solace to her family? During her late-night shifts, when the streets outside felt hallowed, she contemplated the impact of unsolved tragedies on both victims and communities. Each case was a thread woven into the fabric of society, each unsolved mystery leaving behind a tear in the tapestry that could never be fully mended. Yet, amidst her grappling doubts, she recognized the resilience that had bloomed in the aftermath of despair. The community had rallied, transformed by Emily's story. Parents, awakened by the reality of vulnerabilities, began openly discussing the importance of safety and mental health with their children. Students formed peer support groups, creating dialogues about pressures that once went unspoken. This collective introspection reminded Bennett that even in darkness, light could flicker through if given a chance. Each member of Maplewood, including Bennett herself, had awakened a new sense of responsibility, not just for the cases that remained unresolved, but for the people whose stories had yet to unfold. And while it would take time to heal, she marveled at the strength that arose out of tragedy, a strength that honored Emily's memory and demanded that no child ever again felt alone in their darkest hour. Though the quest for justice was unfinished, it had forged connections, built awareness, and sparked a call to action. Maplewood was evolving into a community that would not only protect their own but also embrace those in need. As the days turned into years, the haunting echo of Emily's laughter became a chorus resonating through the streets, a reminder of hope, resilience, and the unyielding pursuit of truth.